Hey everyone, welcome back to an Insomniac's Insight. This is my 6th episode. It's been quite a while since I've recorded, and I apologize for that for, those of you who used to follow me when I was on SoundCloud. It's been quite a while. I think it's been at least a month or two since I've been able to upload. Things got kind of crazy towards the end of this year. I know it's still not over, but things just got a little bit out of hand with time-wise. I know I've been working, I've been in school, trying to finish up this semester and whatnot, and things with time just got a little bit hectic. Instead of being able to do what I wanted to do at night, I had to write papers and projects and study for tests, take tests, and now I've been looking for a job recently, or another job. I'm still at the one where I'm currently employed at, but looking for a new one is a little bit time consuming, especially when things aren't easy out anymore. Jobs ask for too much shit, but I digress. Anyways, I haven't been able to upload, and I apologize for that. I used to be on SoundCloud, for those of you who didn't know. For those of you who are here from there, thank you for following me here. I really appreciate it. I know I kind of haven't made any statement about that at all, to be honest. Not even on SoundCloud or on Instagram, where some of you guys may follow me. But with everything and the way it's been going, I just decided to kind of switch over to be a bit easier, in the long run, more or less. However, I will still try my best to upload as best as I can. I still don't have a set format or a set schedule as of now, especially since things are kind of, in the middle of changing. But as time goes by, I will do my best to try and get everything not fully set, because I do want to kind of just ramble on sometimes, kind of like I am right now, but more or less just be able to allow you guys to suggest certain things, either through the comments below or on social media platforms, whatever the case may be. But and then also with an upload schedule, maybe I'll be able to create one, but for now I kind of just do it whenever I have the chance. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm a little bit sick at the moment, so if I tend to cough or anything in the middle of this recording, I apologize. But I just recently got sick, and it's just something that I haven't been able to shake off, especially with the weather here. It's just crazy. It's one way one day, and then one day it's another, and it just throws off everything. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about more, I guess, just kind of ramble on about, since I don't really have anything pre-written out, even though I really don't ever anytime, just more or less kind of notes on what I want to talk about. But this is more just going to be always off the top of my head for this certain topic. It's just more or less about my opinions on ghosts and spirits, and kind of explaining a little bit of maybe some misconceptions that I know a lot of people have. And I'll also be talking about my thoughts on if they exist, why they exist, have I ever seen any, or do I believe I've ever seen any, and just subtle things of that nature. And then I guess whatever comes along as well. But yeah, starting off, me personally, I do think that ghosts exist, or at least spirits in a sense. That's one of my main things, starting off with misconceptions, is that a lot of people think ghosts and spirits are the same thing. There actually is a clear-cut difference. People that I've spoken to, spiritualists and paranormal researchers and stuff like that, some friends of mine, and there is always, or has always been, a clear-cut difference between the two, even though it kind of gets lost in translation. And especially with the way media portrays everything, it's kind of something that you won't ever know unless somebody explains it to you, kind of thing. The main difference is that ghosts don't have any type of consciousness or sentience to them, whereas a spirit does. They're more aware. I guess the best way to think about it is when people say there's multiple types of hauntings, two of the most prominent ones are going to be active hauntings and residual hauntings. And that's primarily based off the difference in what spirit or what ghost is there, or what kind of paranormal entity is haunting the place. For ghosts, they are the ones who are residual. They don't have any sort of sentience. They're more just attached to the place or thing that they're haunting. They have this sense of nothingness to them. They're just there. They just are. They just exist. They don't have any mission. They're not trying to do anything. They're not trying to make contact. And sometimes they don't even know that they are dead. Whereas spirits are the exact opposite. They know what they are. They know what they are capable of. They know what they are, and they know that they have some sort of control. And they know, most of them know that they are. They have passed away. For ghosts, it's more or less of a emotional or a very impactful impression is why they're attached. That could also be the same thing for spirits. That's one of the big things that I guess media type interpretations of ghosts and spirits get correct, is that a lot of reasons why there are ghosts and spirits that are remain to certain areas are there is because of something that was so impactful that it impressioned them or the situation to them, and they're kind of not trapped but more or less just stuck, I guess is the correct word, because spirits in a sense aren't trapped. Spirits can actually move and manipulate and kind of do things on their own, whereas a ghost is more kind of stuck. If you're watching a movie, and you watch the movie, no matter how many times you watch it, what's going to happen. It does the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. That's kind of like what a ghost is. It's just it's just a constant rerun. Whereas a spirit is like live television. You never know what's going to happen, They can do whatever they want. So I guess that's the best way to kind of think about it. I guess a good way to explain how a ghost is an impression in a sense is kind of like an explanation that I give to a lot of people when they ask what's the difference between a residual and a active haunting. So take for example, you have this guy, right? He's stuck in a jail cell, and it's late at night, say around 3 or 4 a.m. and it's raining outside. It's a very strong thunderstorm, and this guy has just been stuck there for years, right? He has all this emotional distress, and he's constantly pacing around his jail cell, and he's just so aggravated, so distraught, and he just feels the need to kind of let all of that emotion go, right? He just has to let it all out. I don't know if you guys ever feel that moment where you just want to let it all out. You want to yell at the top of your lungs and just let that weight fall off your chest, right? And at, like, say it's around 3:14, right? 3:14 in the morning, and then right when the clock strikes 3:15, this guy just lets it all out. This guy yells at the top of his lungs as loud and as long as he can. You feel all the pain, you feel all the suffering, you feel all the agony. It just leaves his lungs, right? And he rattles and he shakes and he curses and he does whatever he does. He just lets it all out as best as he can. And at the same time, the rain pours down as hard as it's been all night. Lightning strikes not too far in the distance, and it's an empowering and a very impactful moment. It's just something that is something straight out of a book or a movie, and that's what happens in an instance. And then years pass, just years pass. The guy leaves, he passes away or whatever, and this whole jail is rumored to be haunted. And you go back, and somebody who's investigating goes to that cell, they'll feel a certain type of, not presence, but energy, like if this guy's energy was just absorbed into the walls, into the bars, into everything that's in that cell, right? They'll feel that, and then you won't have anything happen though, unless the same conditions are met. So it's another late night. It's 3 in the morning. It's raining outside or whatever, and then as that clock strikes 3:15, you can hear. Sometimes you'll be able to hear something from that incident, whether that guy just tossed over his bed at all. You'll hear that. You'll hear something loud bang, or if he yelled, you'll hear that yell. You can hear it in the distance. It's very faint. You know, you might not be able to hear it with your own ears, you know, but you might pick it up on an EVP recording. And that is essentially residual. It just doesn't have any type of rhyme or reason. It's just because something so strong, something so impactful, not even if it's impactful to you, just to that particular person in that area, it just gets kind of stuck there. And it'll just, when conditions are met or similar conditions are met, it'll kind of replay itself, you know, or something along the lines of that. And that's something you won't have control over. You won't be able to make contact with that. And that's kind of hard for people to tell the difference between the two, right? Because you can't do anything about that. You can ask them questions and they don't respond. There's no kind of response or anything to them. Sometimes it might be accidental. You might have a residual haunting where you hear people talking and then the impactful moment was they got into a fight and then they knock something over, and then you hear talking and then you might ask them a question and then something falls over and you think that's a response. And that's how it is. You know, you won't be able to tell that this certain ghost is actively responding or listening to you and they know that you're there, and vice versa. So that's a big misconception, is that people think ghosts and spirits are the same thing when they're actually not. They're more something that's just there and always will be there, and they have no type of connection to you or the place. It's just because of that energy that was there. A spirit, however, for the most part, is something that can be sentient or can be knowledgeable about its existence and what's around it, and can in some ways have interaction with it. Those are the type of spirits where you hear those people who get EVP recordings and stuff like that, and you'll ask them questions and they will actively respond. You know, you'll ask them a question, they'll say yes, they'll say no, they'll say a name or something along the lines of that, right? It's actual response in real time. That's when you have something that's kind of, I guess smart isn't the right word. It's more of, it's aware. And it might not be aware that it's dead. It might not be aware that what's going on, but it can hear you and you can hear it in a sense. And that's a spirit. Those things really aren't bound to a certain place. They just kind of exist wherever they want to exist. That could be also for the same reason, because of something that was strong emotionally or damaging to them. A lot of people talk about how when individuals die in car crashes, or, you know, get murdered or get shot or have a heart attack or things like that, where it's so sudden and so quick that the person doesn't really have a chance to come to terms with it, and then they have a lot of unfinished business. That can also be a spirit, because they are the ones who have something they need to finish, or somebody they need to talk to, or something they need to come to terms with before they move on. And that is what makes a spirit a spirit. Sometimes a lot of people don't come back as spirits because of something like that strong, but sometimes it could be just because they miss somebody or something along the lines of that. And I know that is something that people don't really think about. I know a lot of people kind of hope for that, but it's not something that people think of when they think of a place as haunted. You know, they just go back to a place that's familiar to them, you know, and it might be different in the sense that it's abandoned now, but to them at one point in time, it was something that meant something to them. Especially like, say you buy a new house, right? It might have been renovated or something along the lines of that, but there's one thing about that house that's somewhat similar, whether it be the foundation or the structure or just the place that it's located, right? It's just something about that place is still familiar to that spirit, and that's when they go back there. And it's not that they mean to haunt you, because, you know, you're just living in the places they used to live to. I mean, of course, it just kind of depends on the person who's the spirit as well. But besides that, it's just what they know. You know, think about you go to a place that you're not familiar with. Like, say you've always lived in America all your life, right? Or you've lived in a certain city all your life, and then one day you take this trip to somewhere in, I don't know, Asia or Europe or something like that, right? And you have no idea where you are. You have no idea what's the same, what's familiar, or where to go, what's good to eat, what's a good place to hang out, because it's just you and maybe a couple friends. You know, you've done a little research here and there, You know the general layout, you know where you're at. But in terms of familiarity and where you feel comfortable, that's going to be kind of hard to come across. And it's kind of the same thing for those spirits. You know, you pass on, and everything that you had at one time was a certain way, but then when you come back, it could be years, it could be decades, and you wouldn't feel the same. You know, there wouldn't be something to kind of make you feel comfortable again. And that's what spirits kind of go to. They go to the places they kind of most feel comfortable. It's like a child who gets lost in the store, and the last place they remember seeing their parent was in the toy section. So they go to the toy section, even though they're pretty sure that their parents aren't there, but they're just hoping that they are there. You know, it's kind of that thing. You just don't know what to do whenever you're clueless, and you go to the place or the person that makes you feel the most comfortable. You know, I guess that's a good way to think about spirits, is that not all of them are meant to be bad, and not all of them haunt for mischievous reasons. They're kind of looking for more of a purpose. They have a desire to do something or accomplish something or meet someone, you know, fix something that was wronged. And ghosts are just there because they don't have a chance to leave. Like I said, they're stuck there like a recording. And then you have things like poltergeists and stuff like that aren't completely human. And then of course the one that movies love to use is demons. Obviously those things are completely different. You know, there's a little bit of speculation when it comes to poltergeist. Not a lot is fully known about them, I guess, or at least I don't know a lot about them. I know there's a lot of gray areas with poltergeist. Some people say that they are human, or that they were human, or that it's just a twisted human spirit. And that's something that we won't know, I guess, in the next years or so. It'll probably take a long time before we kind of figure out how to learn what these things could or could not be. And that's something that has taken a long time for us to understand, even what we know today about what we have as, you know, ghosts and spirits. And we still don't fully comprehend it, you know. That's why people still don't think that ghosts and spirits are real, because there's no definitive proof. It's more or less just what we've learned through, I guess, interaction and research with other cultures, and a mixed mash of a lot of things. It's kind of what, in a sense, it's a science of its own, because science itself is something that is trying to explain the unexplainable. And I guess that's the same thing what ghost hunters and paranormal researchers do. They want to explain something that they or nobody else fully understands, because people love to know or love to look into things that they don't know, especially things that they are scared of, things that they are unaware of, things that they can't control. It's a big thing that people always get into, where they want to understand everything. I think that's a big trait of humans as a whole. They want to understand, and they want to control as much as possible, because it's what makes them feel comfortable. If you put somebody in a setting where they don't have any control, they freak out. Not in a literal sense where they go crazy, but sometimes they just feel over paranoid and over panicky, over anxious. You know, that's just something that's normal to the human brain, to the human mind. It's just a reaction. You know, you want to have something that you can latch onto, and most of the time that's control. You want to have something under your control, and when you lose that, you kind of, I don't know, you kind of freak out. So in the big scheme of things, we're trying to control other things that we don't understand. You know, we want to control the vastness of space. We want to explore it and own it. Not own it in a literal sense, but more understand the questions that we've never been able to understand. And when you look at paranormal research, it's the same thing. We don't know a lot about the afterlife. We know almost nothing about the afterlife. Everything is more or less just speculations and suggestions and theories. And we want to stop that. We want to understand it. We want to know, like, okay, this is what happens. And I know there's a lot of people that don't want to know that. Some people just accept it and will always just accept it. But the majority of people, they want to know. They want to know what's going to happen or what can happen. And I think that's why there's a big speculation when it comes to ghosts, spirits, afterlife, and all that kind of stuff. Paranormal stuff as a whole, I guess you can say, is very open-ended and it's sort of polarizing because of there's people who want to know, but then there's people who don't want to know. And I guess it's more off of what you've been brought up to believe. Excuse me. Or what you've come to believe based on your own experiences, everybody's different. You will always believe what you want to believe depending on certain circumstances in your life. But like I said, for me, I do have a belief in it. I just don't fully understand it, but I do want to understand it. I'm somebody who wants to believe and who wants to understand, but that's just my nature. That's just how I am as a person. I'm very curious. I'm a very curious person, and I really love learning anything that I can learn. I feel like there's no shortage of things to learn, especially when it comes to something like this that's unexplained. And even if things are wrong, I guess I'd love to just say that I took the chance to try and learn about it, instead of just letting it be and just letting it kind of just linger back there. And I just kind of don't worry about it, because in a sense, if there is that kind of sense of afterlife, I will be one of the people like you or anybody who will end up there, hopefully. Like I said, since we don't know a lot about it, the only thing we have about it is what we've been told over the years, and that's mainly through religion or culture. And, you never know what's going to happen. And it kind of makes you feel, most people feel very worrisome about that. But if you look at other cultures that are not, I guess, Americanized, they have a better sense of death and the afterlife as a whole. They don't kind of shun it away or hide it away, kind of like we do. More or less, an Americanized thing of death is that it's kind of hush-hush and it's kind of tucked away. People deal with it privately, and it's a sad thing. It's something that nobody wants to talk about. Where, say, if you look in other cultures, it's more or less not glorified, but it's kind of celebrated that their loved ones or friends or whatever have moved on and are going on a new experience and a new journey, even though they know as much about it as we do. I feel like everybody, no matter where you're from, no matter where you live, no matter what culture you're part of, the same thing about death is that it exists and that you don't know what happens after it. It's more just what you've been told, and what you believe is what shapes your view on it. And here in America, the most common thing is that it's a bad thing. Whereas in other cultures, it can be seen as a good thing, and it's a thing that takes you to something of a higher plane of existence or knowledge. And like I said, that just depends on what culture you are looking at. Some cultures celebrate it as a passing on to a new life. In other cultures, they believe that you have a chance in being reincarnated, and because of that, they celebrate you because you'll be able to live a better life, hopefully. It's all just kind of speculated as to what happens afterwards. And here in America, because we don't really know what happens afterward, we kind of we're saddened by it and we're afraid of it. And that's okay. It's not like it's a bad thing to be afraid. It's always something you're going to be afraid of. You're afraid of the unknown. But it's not something that you should just completely leave out of existence. I mean, people die every day, and with the way things have been happening, it's just kind of something that you're going to see and you're going to hear about, even if you don't want to. You really can't avoid it. But that's not to say that, you look at death as something and you're like, oh, it's okay. It's okay to die or whatever, you don't have to be happy and accepting about it. Don't get me wrong. It's a permanent thing, and it's something that should be taken quite heavily, but I'm just saying it doesn't have to be something that should be so sad, I guess, in a sense. Like, for example, I guess me personally, I'm somebody who's of Hispanic and Mexican descent, and one thing that we have that, of course, a lot of people have talked about is Dia de los Muertos, right? We have the Day of the Dead, and that's something that you know that the person has passed on, that the person is dead, and that they're never coming back. but you kind of don't look at it as a negative aspect, because on that day, the belief is that they're able to rejoin you in a sense and kind of still be involved with you and your family and your loved ones, right? They get to still see what it is. You set up a little shrine for them. You have, their picture, some meaningful belongings to them. And it's a thing that you celebrate them, who they were, what they did, and the fact that they got to be here with you. It's more or less a celebration. And then you leave out something that they love, like their favorite food, their favorite toy, their favorite item, their favorite movie, their favorite snack, anything like that. You leave it out for them, and the hope is that they can enjoy that, and you get to enjoy that time with them, and you kind of talk to them, you communicate with them, not on a literal sense, but more or less you just kind of tell them like you miss them, you love them, and you hope they're doing good, and kind of, I guess, updating them on what's happening in your life, because you never know if they're able to know that or not. So you kind of just, it's like you're having another conversation with them, even though you aren't. It just feels like that, and that's a good thing to do. At least that, because that's what I've been told from family members, that it's a good thing to do, because you always will have that legacy to live on with, right? Even like say years from now, and once my aunts and uncles or whoever passes on, the stories, the recollections of stuff that I will have of them, I can pass on to my children and their children and their cousins, and whatever the case may be, right? You can live their legacy, and not live it, but pass on their legacy and who they were. And it's something that's very interesting, kind of like once somebody passes away, you don't really talk about them a lot anymore. You kind of just, somebody will ask you about them, or you'll kind of have these moments where you think about them, and that's really it. But with something like Dia de los Muertos, you will talk about them. You will pass on who they were, because you'll have that, like I said, you had that shrine, and then when you get your younger family members to participate into it, and they might not know who that is, and you can explain to them who they are, what they were, and what they meant to you, and then let's say you pass on or whatever, and then your great grandchildren will hear something about you, and you've never met them, but they know who you are, because somebody still finds you important enough to do that, right? It's very interesting to me. Like I said, maybe that's just because that's just the culture that I grew up with, but I think that that's something that a lot of people don't like to do, is talk about death or past loved ones who have passed on, and that's fine. Like I said, everybody's different, but I think it is something that people need to realize that it is going to happen one day. And I realized I just kind of got off track that originally I was just talking about ghosts and spirits. But anyway, like I said, it's just something that I feel that here in America is very, 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 very kind of hush hush, and it's something that I think is not necessarily good. You kind of just push it away and try to forget about it, even though that's something you can never forget about. Because I think in the long run, not even the long run, even like right now, like in the short term, death makes you appreciate life. Even though you could have the most boring, most monotonous kind of existence, you have existence, and that's something big in itself. With all the realm of possibilities of not even existing, being able to say that you are alive is very, very strong in itself. Or being able to say that you are alive is very, very strong. Because with the way everything could have gone, you could have not existed. And that's very, I guess, not scary, not mysterious. It's kind of amazing, because if you didn't exist, you wouldn't know that you could have or couldn't have existed. But because you exist, you know how lucky you are to be here. Even though you kind of take that for granted, not everybody thinks every day that they're so lucky to be here and be alive in the first place. People don't think about that. people just think about, oh, I'm here and my job sucks, and oh, I broke up with this person, or I lost my job, or I can't find my car keys, I can't find my favorite pair of shoes to wear, oh, my shirt is dirty. Everybody worries about something so small, and that's fine, because that's just what life is. You worry about things that are just there. But when you have those moments to yourself, when you're alone, or when you're just thinking, most of the time people are just thinking about weird shit, and that's okay. Everybody's different. But how many times have you ever taken about your day or your life, for example, and just thought like, man, I'm really fucking lucky to be here right now, because I really shouldn't probably exist because of how small my chances of existing are. And people aren't thankful for that. I know with life comes a lot of pain and a lot of struggle and a lot of hard times, but that's the point of it, because you get to exist and experience things. I know a lot of people wish bad things wouldn't happen, but I feel like if bad things didn't happen, you wouldn't be able to appreciate the good things that happen. There's a lot of good things that happen, but people take them so for granted, and that's just what it is. That's something that you can't fix. You can't make somebody appreciate what's given to them or what isn't given to them. You can't make somebody see something that you see. Like me talking to you right now, I could be telling you how, like I am right now, I'm telling you how good existence is and yada yada yada, but that doesn't mean after you're done listening to this, you're gonna start thinking about your life that way. And that's not my point. My point is just to talk to you guys. It's just what's on my mind right now and what I want to tell you guys, because it's something that I guess I think about. I've had a lot of bad shit happen in my life, and like I said, I don't really want to get on a personal level with it. I don't want to get that deep, but I've had a lot of weird and bad shit happen. But that doesn't mean I'm still thankful for, that doesn't mean I'm still not thankful for being here, I've had a lot of struggles, some things that I feel like I shouldn't have gone through, or things that I feel like shouldn't have happened, things that I wish would change or I could change, but at the end of the day, I got through it and I'm still here, and that's what's important, because obviously for me things got better. Even without telling you guys about my personal life, I struggled a lot, especially within the past couple years, but then a couple things happened in my life that changed it completely on its head, and I've been the happiest I've ever been. Even though I still have some stuff that I struggle with, like I said, me doing this podcast is an obvious sign, because I struggle with insomnia and I'm recording this late as fuck, but I can still say that I'm happy. So I think more or less it doesn't matter how shitty things are, because if things can be shitty, they can also be awesome. And that's something that's really amazing to me, because sometimes it doesn't take a lot for things to get better. It just happens when you're not looking for it. I know a lot of people go looking for happiness. They go looking for that sense of contentment and well-being and, wanting to make things better. But for me, things just happened. And probably for you, things can just happen. You just have to accept that not everything is going to be under your control, and whether you're happy or not, or what's going to make you happy or not, might not be something you do. It might be something that someone else does, or that something else bestows upon you. And that's just something that you have to understand. But it's hard to understand when you want to make things the way you want them to be. This is not to say that you let everything happen the way it's going to happen, whether you go to work or don't go to work, or you pursue education or don't pursue education. That's totally, personal choice. But don't just let life go on and try not to make an effort to do anything. Do what you want to do. If you have a goal, if you have some dreams, go ahead and shoot for the moon. Do what you want, but don't feel like it's the end if things don't work out the way you think they should. Because not always things are going to go the way you want them to go, or the way you think they're going to go. They're going to go the way they're meant to go. And that's a big thing that I used to struggle with. I used to always want to make things my own. I used to want to just, take the bull by the horns and make him go where I want to go. But that's just not how life works. Sometimes life takes you where it wants you to go. And that's okay. You just gotta have to accept that, because if you don't and you try to go against the grain, it's gonna rub you the wrong way, and it can sometimes get worse. I know for me, I had some stuff that I was going through, and I tried to make it better by my own means instead of doing something that I probably should have done a long time ago, and I didn't, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I wanted to try even more, and I just felt like it would never work. And there was just one day where I was like, you know what, I just gotta go wherever something just takes me. Just go wherever I feel is right. Go the way that I feel like it should go. Instead of me trying to, I need to do this, and things will get better. This is what's going to make my life better. And instead of doing that, and I kind of just went with the flow, things got better. Things got way better. Oh my God, I can't even express how much better things got. Without telling you guys everything, things went from literally rock bottom to where now, in the past year or so, I feel like I am just on top of the world. And that's just something I can't express enough, especially for the people who made a difference in my life, or the person who made a difference in my life. Even with a lot of bad things have happened, I've actually had a lot of bad things happen since I kind of let my life go that way. Things that I feel like should have impacted me a lot more in a negative way, but they actually didn't, because I know that that's just how life is. Not everything's just gonna be all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it's gonna hit some dark times, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna be okay. It's actually gonna be okay. So, in the grander scheme of things, life is just the way it is. It's life. So just be appreciative of what you've got, and that you're here in the first place, because if things would have went even 1 degree less or more than what they did for you to exist, you wouldn't be here. I mean, it's so vast to think about that, and you're so coincidental. Not coincidental, I guess that's the wrong word. You're just so lucky. Like, there's just something that allowed you to be here, and you have to be grateful for that, because it could have been somebody else. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be listening to this. Another person would be listening to this podcast. And like I said, you never know that if you didn't exist. But you do know that, and you do exist. So I guess the big thing is just enjoy what you can enjoy. Even though shit will happen, and shit will happen hard sometimes, enjoy what you can enjoy, because it'll make the biggest difference you could ever think of, or probably couldn't think of. And that's a good thing. Enjoy the people who make you happy, and do your best to try to make other people happy. I'm not asking you to be a saint. I'm not asking you to go out there and make a difference in the world. And, this ain't no type of pep talk type bullshit. This is just me saying, do things sometimes, I'm not asking you to give money or food to every homeless person. I'm not asking you to go volunteer at a homeless shelter, every Christmas or every holiday or whatever. But, be human. If you see somebody struggling and you feel like you can help, even if it's just a minute or two, just do something, that's just something that the world really needs today, in this day and age. A lot of people just stick to themselves, and they really aren't human anymore. And I mean, what I mean by that is they just don't have any sense of humanity, of togetherness. Everybody's just for themselves, and that's how life is, of course, but you can do more. You can always do more. You can always help somebody out. You can always go out of your way, and not everybody wants to, and that's fine. I'm not saying you have to, but just, you can make a difference towards people, and that's kind of something that I feel people should take more advantage of. I know it's kind of hard now because sometimes you never know what somebody really wants or what somebody's really, doing. Like I know years ago, oh, excuse me, people used to see people stuck on the side of the road, with their car and stuff like that and help them no matter what. But now, with all the shit that's happened, nobody wants to stop for anybody anymore because you don't know if it's a scam, if it's a scheme, if they're gonna rob you or attack you or whatever the fuck, and that's understandable. Don't do shit if you think it looks suspicious or if it's just you. Always go in that mindset of protect yourself first, and then you can help other people. Because the most important the most important person at the end of the day is going to be yourself, obviously. And if you have a means to do something safely, and if you think something's going to be okay in that, certain aspect or scenario, then go for it. If you want. I just think that it's something that we could do more as a society is actually be humane towards one another and have a sense of humanity, because it'll just make things a lot better. Like I said, this isn't something that I'm trying to, give you a pep talk or whatever. I mean, originally the beginning of this episode was supposed to be about ghosts and spirits, and now I'm talking about life, whatever. Like I said, things just kind of happen. But then again, I did tell you guys that this is more like a rambling type of segment for me. I guess I haven't really talked about anything in a while, so I'm kind of just talking. I've had a lot of not ideas, but a lot of thoughts about life lately. That's kind of what I really think about whenever I'm awake at night. I think about life and I think about what it means and why it is the way it is. Even though I can't answer those questions on my own, I know that because I know some of you are probably going to say that. But that's the point. The point of your existence is you can either ponder about it or you can just let it be and never ask a question in your life. But there is going to be somebody like me who will address it eventually. And, it might make you think about it. It might not. That's fine. But I'm thinking about it because it's just what I've been thinking about. There's a lot of people who say existence is very futile, that there's no point to it, and you're such a small aspect in such a grander scheme. That's okay. You don't have to be the biggest piece of a puzzle to make the puzzle whole. You just have to be a piece in the first place. And whether what you do makes an impact on the world or the impact on a person or impact on an aspect, it doesn't matter. You don't have to change the world to leave an impact or do something that you were meant to do. You just have to do something. Literally, like me, maybe years from now, I will not have been the person to explain why the afterlife exists or find the cure to cancer or help us travel to Mars or whatever, something that might be praised for years to come. And that's okay. Maybe my purpose is to make the people that I love feel better about themselves. Maybe my purpose is just to listen to one person and make their day better. Or maybe my purpose is to talk to you guys and make you think about things that you've never thought about before so you can make a difference. Maybe I'll be talking and somebody right now who's listening, we're thinking about like maybe I should do something and they end up making a difference with their life that changes the world, and that is just what I'm meant to do. I will never know that, and neither will you. You'll just do something and then you never know what you do makes a difference unless you're praised for it and you're recognized as somebody who's made a huge impact on the world. You become president, you become a person who wins a Nobel Prize, and you're recognized by a lot of people. You won't know what kind of difference you make, but I guarantee you'll make some kind of difference. Like I said, it could just be to one person, it can be to many, but you'll make a difference somewhere. But you won't do that if you don't try to be a little more human. That's kind of the main thing you want to do, is just realize that the only way you're going to make a difference is if you act with some sense of humanity. instead of just self-loathingness and selfishness. I'm not saying being selfish is a bad thing. I know people are selfish in their own regards and at different levels, but going out of your way every once in a while, or doing something that you can reach out to others with once in a while, it'll help. It'll make a difference. It'll do something. But like I said, it's not going to do anything if you don't do anything in the first place. Like me, I always had ideas about stuff like this, about life and existence and meaning and purpose all the time. And I just felt like maybe one day I should do something. I should talk about it somewhere or some way. I can't really talk about stuff like this to my family or to personal friends, because maybe sometimes they'll just think it's kind of stupid to just talk about stuff like this, because I don't have a radio show, or I'm not motivational speaker or whatever. That's not what I am. To them, I'm just plain old person who they just know from work or school, or that one time I met them at a bar or whatever, and that's okay. So like I said, just kind of do something to the best of your extent and where you feel comfortable. I feel comfortable talking about what I feel might not make a difference, but kind of just open somebody else's eyes to a different type of perception, to a different point of view, is through something like this, a platform where I can just speak and ramble on about life and my ideals. That's what I think works. And maybe for you, writing a blog or making a video or becoming a motivational speaker, or just who knows what makes a difference, but it'll work out, because that's what works for you. I'm not trying to make a difference with this podcast. I'm just trying to talk with this podcast, and if it does that, it does that. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's okay. But either way, it'll work out, and that's okay. So at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is just understand that everyone will have their own purpose, and when you find it, it may be now, it may be later, but eventually you will find it. But just enjoy life to the best of your ability, and do your best to be a very humane person. Like I said, you will probably never know the difference or impact you had unless somebody tells you, or unless you recognized for it, and that's okay. You can just do it and understand that you're doing the right thing. Enjoy your life and be appreciative for everything and everyone that you have. Even if it's shitty, you still have something to be grateful for. But this whole segment, is just kind of me telling you that there are a lot of more things to be happy about than there are to be sad about. Even if things are complete shit, things can get better. Things can always get better. Like I know a lot of people will say, well, yeah, things can always get worse too. Well, that's how life works. The point is, you don't always have to focus on the fact that things are negative and that things are bad. Sometimes you just want to focus on the fact that things are just gonna be how they're supposed to be. Sorry about that. Well, guys, my throat's kind of feeling a bit shitty right now, and I apologize about that. And I know, like I said, this podcast was originally supposed to be about ghosts and spirits, and I hope the info that I provided you with was kind of a little bit insightful, kind of a little bit more informative, and may have opened you up to a bit of things that you may have not have known before or have thought about, in that sense. So hopefully I kind of did give you a little bit more information on the difference between the two. I know I had also mentioned poltergeist and demons. I'd love to do another episode, either comparing those two or comparing all four. I know some of the differences are really obvious. That's okay, because I feel like I can still give you guys some type of information. Maybe not just comparing them, more or less, giving you common misconceptions or different types of ideologies and the history of them. And, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know when ghosts were first mentioned. I'm pretty sure there's some of you who do, but when ghosts were mentioned in our history and literature and things of that nature, where we are actually I guess, first introduced to the idea or concept of them, even though it's changed drastically throughout the years. But I could give you more insight, more information, or even just my thoughts about them and where they come from, why they exist, and why we are portraying them the way we do in modern society or modern media, I guess I should say. Either way, I can give you some info, hopefully, about that you may have not already known. Or if you guys have any other suggestions for topics. I know a couple things that I have thought about doing is talking about other sorts of creatures or urban legend type aspect of creatures. You know, I know one thing that I've always liked is skinwalkers, wendigos. I could talk about Bigfoot or aliens, you know, things like that. Or if you guys like the sections and segments where I kind of ramble on more about life and meaning and existence, you know, like I said, I think about that a lot. I can talk about that because there's other areas that I haven't covered yet. I know in my aliens episode, I talk a lot about, you know, life outside this planet and how we're also grateful to be here, like I kind of did here. But I brought this from a different aspect. I brought this from, you know, a death and more morbid type of topic. But I can also talk about other ideologies I have about that and what I think it means to be alive, what I think it means that you're here. I know I've thought a lot about why people should think, why people should be positive about it, even if things are bad. Because the universe as a whole is very, I guess, very harsh. It doesn't really take a lot into account when it comes to you as a person, just a personal person, you know. You're not very important to the universe as a whole. But there's reasons why you should be, you know, thankful for that. Some of them are similar, of course, because I think life as a whole has its own meaning to it. But like I said, I can talk about that in another episode if you guys like to hear about that. If you guys don't like it, that's okay too. You guys can tell me. I won't talk about that. I can talk about other things. I know I've also wanted to do an episode about haunted objects. Why ghosts attach themselves to certain objects, or not even ghosts themselves, spirits, I guess. Why spirits attach to them and use them as a kind of conduit, and why sometimes it's a mixture of necessity and sometimes another mixture of like deception. I know, like I said, depending on what you believe is in that spirit or in that object, it could make a world of difference. If it's a residual thing, if it's a active thing like a ghost or a poltergeist or a demon, can make a world of difference, you know. So I think maybe an episode about that would be pretty interesting, because I've done a bit of research on that topic too, because it's something that I had gotten interested into. Or I can just talk about, you know, other shit other than ghosts and whatnot. I can give you my ideas on movies and books and anything that you guys would want to hear. I'd be more than happy to talk about it. I think the only thing other than that is that I'd be willing to discuss any type of topics that you guys can send to me. So please do so. Any kind of ideas, even if I don't know a lot about it. I know I mainly talk about paranormal type aspects, but I'd be more than happy to talk about anything. If you guys want to send me, you know, certain stories or I guess things you might be interested about, I can do my own research and try to become more knowledgeable about it and give my opinions about it. I wouldn't mind doing that either, because I think it's something that will help me learn new things that I may have not been comfortable with, or maybe that I just never heard of. So I'd really love to do that, because it's a way for me to not only learn new things, but to understand the people that are listening to my podcast, understand a little bit more about you guys and what you guys are interested into, you know. I might not be able to cover everything And maybe I won't be able to find a lot about anything, but hopefully I can do something. Like I said, I kind of think about the same things all the time. It's just more paranormal, supernatural type stuff, and stuff about life and death and things of that nature, and other things here and there. But I'd also want to do what you guys like. I've also thought about maybe reading scary stories on here. I actually do write scary stories myself, so that could be something that I could do, just so that way you guys can hear them and let me know what you think about them. If you love them, you hate them, or you don't give two shits about it, it's okay. Either way, I don't mind. It's just something for me to get it out there. And I'd love to just talk. Like I said, I love talking. I can talk forever. Like I'm still talking right now. I'm not even talking about the topic I began talking about. I'm just talking about what I could talk about. That sounded like some Inception type shit right there, but no, it's just me talking. But anyways, like I said, I always have an endless amount of ideas that I could talk about. It's just more or less I want to know what you guys want to hear, and if you guys actually enjoy hearing this. Because I know some of the stuff is kind of not dark in a sense. It's more like just I guess saddening in a way. But once again, guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys' love and support. It really means a lot to me that you guys are even listening. So feel free to please like, comment, do whatever you can, subscribe if you want. And I'll probably leave links down to the Instagram account, and I'll fix it up a little bit, so that way you guys can go ahead and interact with me a little bit more. I really want to get to know you guys and hopefully see what you guys want to hear from me. And if you like this, or whatever your opinions on anything I talked about during this podcast, let me know. But this is me signing off. Hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas holiday, or whatever holiday you guys are celebrating, and hopefully I'll be able to upload by New Year's. But if not, have a happy New Year. But in the meantime, thank you once again so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care, guys. Bye.